of these members so that we can make an opinion. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that we cannot say we are wrong or we are right. We are expressing an opinion, which is what the Constitution envisages. And this House must also reach that point where we can stamp our authority. Because we have been in this House, this is the third time. But it is unfortunate that this House, many times we are actually used as a conveyor belt. The Speaker reads the names, they go to the Appointments Committee, they are all passed, and then members, you know, it's like we are choir singing for the executive. Madam Speaker, I think when we talk about this vetting process, I want to thank the Constitution and, of course, the leadership of the House, because this was a very transparent process. I am listening to members speak here, and I'm wondering whether they watch the proceedings. Madam Speaker, Kenyans were also vetting as we were vetting those nominees. And Kenyans saw the competencies. Kenyans had the answers. Kenyans also appreciated the questions that were asked. In fact, Madam Speaker, I dare say that a lot of the questions that we were asking came from memoranda from the public that is in this report that members need to read, and also SMSs and phone calls that were made to us. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that it is wrong for anyone to cast aspersions on this committee, because we are just 21 members that were given the mandate on behalf of the House to be able to listen to these nominees and come up with a verdict. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about what was considered, because it's important that members understand this. The Section 6, Part 7 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011 says that an approval hearing shall focus on a candidate's academic credentials, professional training, experience, personal integrity, and background. Madam Speaker, Section 7 indicates that the committee shall consider any constitutional or statutory requirements relating to the office and the suitability of the nominee for the appointment, having regard to the nominee's abilities, experience, and qualities. So, Madam Speaker, when we look at these cabinet nominees that came to us, those were the things that we were considering. And I want to go through the observations that I personally made, because as a member of the committee, other than the agreeing to the committee's report, I also have my personal observations. First, Madam Speaker, I noted that this cabinet is made up of extremely...
Honorable Kagombe, what is out of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Is the honorable member in order to insinuate that the chance to vet these members of the cabinet is issued by the executive or the president, while it is very clear in Article 154 that the secretary to the cabinet shall be vetted by the parliament after being nominated by the president. So by insinuating that this is a chance given to us by the executive or by the president, he's out of order. Please declare him out of order.
Madam Speaker, I think there are some comments that are just meant to take away time for people who are making contributions. So I'll ignore that, Madam Speaker, and continue to say that I observed that this cabinet is made up of extremely wealthy individuals. Madam Speaker, during the campaigns, I heard Kenya Kwanza, which is now in power, mention that they will come up with a cabinet and a government that will be with Mbogas, with boda-bodas, and all sorts of leadership from that level, including the small peasant farmers. Madam Speaker, the average wealth of the nominees was 1-point-something billion. And Madam Speaker, I want to say that in future, there's something I want to propose, that we must ensure that the wealth declaration forms that are given by these nominees.
Mbui, do you want to be informed by the majority leader?
I don't want information, Madam Speaker. I want to finish my contribution. So, Madam Speaker, I wanted to propose that in future, the wealth declaration, because we received their personal, comment on their wealth. I think it's important that we get actual proof. If people say they have land in Runda, we see the title deeds. They say they have vehicles, V8s, we see the V8s. They have Range Rovers worth 25 million, we see a logbook. Because, Madam Speaker, there is a danger in when people are being vetted and they are asked their wealth, there's a possibility someone can exaggerate their wealth, knowing that they might have 5 years of looting so that they can reach their threshold that they want. So, Madam Speaker, it's important, and I propose, going forward, we try and insist that the nominees give actual proof of the wealth declaration that they make. But, Madam Speaker, I'm also happy that we have democratic rights, even in committees. And you know, we have the right for the majority to have their way, while also the minority have their say. And that is the reason why we have a minority report attached to this report. Many of the nominees, Madam Speaker, had very glaring issues. And I can say that even in my questioning some of them, I would have even recommended that almost 20 of them should not be appointed. But because of the give and take and the discussions, and when I was sometimes put to task, I was unable to really clearly indicate why. That is why we ended up singling out only 3. Madam Speaker, as I talk about those 3, I want to start first with the appointment of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, whom we have agreed that we are going to, we are proposing for appointment. But, Madam Speaker, the position of Prime Cabinet Secretary was one position that we had a lot of questions about. And of course, as a committee, we have kind of agreed at the end that we will establish, you know, legislative framework so that we can elaborate the roles. Madam Speaker, the real reason why we want to do that is to ensure that there is no conflict in the service of this cabinet. Because one of the reasons why there is conflict in many times when people are given roles that are not clear or that seem to be, you know, similar to other